Hello, everybody. This is Bruce. I'm here with Steve and Davis. Welcome. I know it's always hard to set aside time for these sort of things, so we're very glad that you're here with us. This is kind of a follow-up to a previous discussion that we had around Box. And if you see on your screen right now a blog post that we published today, or well, it's an earlier blog post, but there should be 3 different separate blog posts on the Web IT News blog that are all about Box and how you can use it and how it can take the place of FileVault and then do a lot of things beyond FileVault's capabilities. So those are great resources as well. Including in those, there should be a link to the video of a previous webinar that we did. So again, there's a lot of information, a lot of background available to you if you are coming up to speed with using Box for your purposes. So today we want to really, kind of make ourselves available to answer questions you might have. We're happy to walk through some of the Box functionality if that would be useful to you, but we're really open to the things that are would be the most impact for your particular use cases. So what we might do is just kind of throw it open to questions and really kind of see where we go from there, or if there are requests for a walkthrough of the functionality around both sharing files, collaboration with groups on files and folders, and then of course one of the really nice things about Box that we want to emphasize is the ability to upload. You can ask your users to upload files to you as well. So there's really some great functionality there. Steve, is there anything you wanted to mention first, or should we just kind of?
No, I'm not sure how many of the people had a chance to either who were at the previous webinar or who had a chance to review that recording. So yeah, again, like Bruce said, Bruce could give like the quick 5-minute intro to Box for those people who didn't have a chance to see that, or if you had any specific questions, we could just go right into the questions.
I mean, one thing that we want to make clear is that if you have a UC-ANR email address or a UC Davis email address, you automatically are given an unlimited Box account. So you won't have to worry about running into having too many files or having too large of files. If you do not have a UC Davis or UC-ANR email account, you still can have a free Box account. It does have a limitation on, I think it's
15 gigabytes.
15 gigabytes, which is still a lot, but it does have a limitation. However, working with the coordinators, working with the people on staff at ANR, you should be able to hopefully work around any kind of limitations. If the file or the folder is put in that person's name, then you don't have to worry about those limitations. So you really do have a great resource. The other thing that we would emphasize is that the point of Box, particularly as a collaborative tool, is to share these files and these folders. You want to make sure that you have enough collaborators involved so that if someone isn't available or is not current with ANR or with the master gardeners, then there are other people who can still have access to those files as well. So that's just something to keep in mind. Box is unlike FileVault in that we don't administer it. We have licenses from Box, but we don't actually run it. So there can be occasions where we may not have access to certain things. So in particularly important files, important folders are shared widely enough so that there won't be situations where things are unavailable that need to be used.
Bruce, this is Scott Parker in San Diego. I have a question or clarification with regards to utilizing Box as a storage, an electronic storage unit for our Master Gardener program in general. And that being said, almost all the Master Gardeners, with few exceptions, do not have UCANR email addresses. However, putting it under a coordinator or an advisor, knowing that regardless of how long they're going to be with the university, their university term is going to be limited to some extent. Is there a way in which we can create that access for a county that wouldn't necessarily be tied to one staff person, but would be tied to that office?
Yeah, that is an excellent question, and one that we've been discussing here as well, which is in the past, UCANR has often used what we call alias email accounts, which are, you know, not specific to one person, but multiple people have access to it. For a variety of reasons, we are moving away from that model. It has to do with security issues, that it's a much larger discussion than what we have here. So while that would be a pretty easy solution for Box, it has larger implications. So I think for now, we're not really going to be, you know, emphasizing that approach. That said, the use of Box among users, volunteers that don't have UC Davis or UCANR email accounts, again, because it is still free and the limitation is pretty high at 15 gigabytes, and there's, as far as I can tell, Steve, you can correct me if I'm wrong, there's really not serious limitations between the free and the professional accounts. I think, you know, we think that it will still be very useful, even if it's being used primarily by non-UCANR people.
I guess I see that it can be useful, and that's not the question. My question, I guess it would even be with the Master Gardeners that had non-UC email addresses, is that looking at Box as a storage facility for archival data for a program, so that it's tied to a program or an office, not to an individual.
I mean, I could kind of chime in here a little bit. You know, at this point, you really can't do that. I mean, you can, individual users say, well, all of the Master Gardener admins will be like the primary admins, you know, like Lauren or Missy, you know, they're staff people. So they can actually set up a Box account. I mean, they'll have the Box account, and they could set up within that a folder that says, you know, Master Gardener archival materials 2018, 2017, 2016, whatever. And those can be shared to everyone. And unlike the way FileVault is set up to basically by default, you know, things will expire after a year and you have to go in manually and renew them. Mm-hmm. That's not the case at all with Box.
I guess that, and comparing it to FileVault is not what I'm looking at, because a little bit of history, we're in the process right now in San Diego County of creating a digital archive of all of our programs, from school gardens to community gardens to reminiscence gardening, the whole thing. And we want to have this electronic record that will go, that will put history in, but then we'll also go forward. And I don't know if FileVault did or could have or whatever did that, but we were looking at other programs. With Box coming on and hearing that Box could be used for something like that, we're interested in exploring that as a possibility of using Box as the system, since it's supported by the UC, to create this digital archive for our program.
It certainly could be, and you know, I think what your original question, you know, again, was to the kind of the long-term ownership of these folders. And yeah, that is a concern, and I did raise that with UC Davis. And they said that yes, that was a concern, you know, that had been raised with them as well. But as a practical matter at UC Davis, that in practice, that really rarely became an issue. And because part of it was there's like a little bit of extra effort in if somebody's leaving, then as part of that transition, you have to make sure that all of those files are shared to someone else. Or if you have a shared folder, that it has 2 different owners or 2 different editors. So it can just basically say, okay, this person's leaving. Well, we'll make sure that, you know, the new person comes in and has been defined as an editor on that folder, and then they can just kind of take over. I mean, and that was, we did run into that kind of thing in FileVault too, because things tended to be shared by people. And I know you're actually talking about a new use case. But to answer your question, I think, yeah, Bruce did mention that we are, for a number of reasons, they're trying to phase out some of these shared email accounts, which also, because they're email accounts, they will have a Box account. But we will not immediately be implementing a solution to that where we'll have basically a departmental Box account, and then that will never expire because it's associated with A&R. I presume if A&R expired, the Box account would expire, but hopefully that will never happen.
We'll all be locked down.
I hope so.
And we will be, you know, announcing some of that, whereas it's just one of those things we kind of need to set up just to make sure we do it correctly, we roll it out correctly, so that we don't run into any kind of accidental, you know, issues. And at that point, when we roll it out, then we'll be able to say, oh, okay, you can just transfer the ownership of this folder over, you know, to an A&R account, and then that can be assigned to whoever is running the programs at the time. And even if somebody does go away, you know, that folder will always be owned by A&R. So I think that will, you know, take care of that concern. But again, kind of in the short term, as long as you do, you know, kind of make sure that as people come and go, that you make sure you assign editor privileges to, you know, the new person.
Well, and you know, just and develop what Steve is saying, and you know, before we get too far down the path, but I would just say that, you know, the way we want to think about the Box, use of Box, particularly for A&R, is as a collaboration tool. You know, as a tool for sharing, as a tool for, you know, collective endeavors. This, you know, it has the functionality to be a backup place, a place where people can, you know, put their files and store things. But for the A&R purposes, the real idea is for it to be around collaboration. And as such, any kind of important collection of documents and files, we think should be shared pretty widely. You know, there will be a lot of people involved with it. So there is a bit of a, you know, a fail-safe involved in that. Any, you know, something like an archive project, I would assume there would be a lot of people involved. And so there would be a lot of people who would be collaborators. And so if any one particular person, you know, left or was no longer available, there would almost always be other people who could step up or could then take over and make sure. Does that make sense in a broader perspective?
It does, and it sounds like that in the long run, it's something that we will be able to transition into. So it's an option that we can continue to explore here and develop. So thank you. I appreciate the answer.
But yeah, again, you know, we've right now been focusing on exactly, you know, transitioning from FileVault, which was not a long-term archival solution, you know, to Box. So again, you have a different and also a very valid and you know, pretty neat use case. And certainly Box could be used for that. That might be something that's like, as you start to get more into that project, you might be able to want to talk to us further, and you know, we can explore if Box really is the best way to do that, or if there's any better solutions for that. But you know, that might be something that's we can explore at a different time, more in depth, because there's a lot of different ways that could go.
Thank you.
I see there's a question for Mimi, and I apologize we didn't get to it earlier. talking about sort of how Box relates to Google Drive or even collaborative tools. And I would say that Box certainly is very similar to Google, and there's a lot of overlap for sure. We are emphasizing Box because we have the license with and through UC Davis, but they are they're very similar. And certainly, if you're familiar with using Google Drive, it can the use of Box should not be wildly different, or it shouldn't be that hard. We are just sort of offering the license around Google Drive for people with the FCA and RNA UC Davis email accounts, and that's one of the main reasons that we are talking about it. We do think it fits the needs of the division quite well. As it compares to collaborative tools, that's a good question. I mean, I think collaborative tools originally the idea, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, is really around discussion and as a forum, a site for forum, and a site for exchanging ideas. And the document side of it was a bit of an add-on. Was not kind of the main thrust. So it has its use for sure, but it's a little bit limited in its functionality. I would think that on the flip side, Box is really not optimized for discussion. I mean, you can kind of shoehorn it in and do funky things with it in order to create discussions through Box. But I would think that what I would recommend would be to use collaborative tools, particularly for discussion, for exchange of ideas. But then when it comes to sharing documents and collaborating on projects, I think Box is superior. It just offers a lot more functionality. And what I would probably do is, have discussions on collaborative tools. But then when I wanted to share a document or something like that, I would probably just use Box and then, bring the link over to collaborative tools. But I'm certainly open to what other people have to say on that.
Yeah, that is a good question, and it's something that I certainly haven't been investigating in depth as far as the collaborative tools integration. I think, like Bruce said, that was basically something that was kind of added as an afterthought to it, because people said, hey, I've got this group, I want to share a document with them, and that was actually written even before my time. So that was 6-7+ years ago that feature was added, I think. So yeah, it does have some limitations, and it has not been really updated for quite some time, and probably won't be. So I think one certain advantage of that is that the collaborative tools groups are basically built in there, and if you want to share a document with that group, it's pretty effortless. Now, one thing that we can explore is a couple of ways of exporting collaborative tools groups to Box, so that you can just say, oh, okay, I think we got into this a little bit with the collaborator email lists, and we could kind of set up some sort of automated procedure to go from collaborative tools groups to Box groups, or actually in the longer term, maybe even use Box as the back end to collaborative tools, so that you'll be using Box, but you might not even know it. But that is a good question, and we can kind of explore that aspect maybe for next blog post, is to, if you want to start moving from collaborative tools to Box for various reasons, we could give you a pro and con for that one. But yeah, that's a good question.
And it does relate to another question that was raised on the previous discussion, which is how easy it is to share something with a lot of people. And Box is pretty well set up for, if you have a list of email addresses that you want to share or make collaborators or what have you. It's pretty easy just to dump them in, either just copied over or from a CSV file or something like that. It's really not too hard, and the limitations are quite high. I mean, I think I read something, it's in the hundreds, even up to 1,000 collaborators are possible. So hopefully that would be sufficient for all our needs.
So yeah, just to give you let's see, I have to figure out where I am here. Okay, FileVault replacement. Because one of the things that you can do, and again, this was mentioned in the blog post that went out today, is if you want to have mailing lists, they have these things called box notes. Actually, here, let's go back here. Which are basically, it's kind of like, you know, their version of Notepad. It's a very limited, oops. It's a very limited like text editor here. But what you can do is either, you know, set a box note, either just like copy something, yeah, again, like from a collaborative tools mailing list or a CSV mailing list or something like that. So there's our new mailing list. And if we want to go back to Box and share this file, we can just cut and paste,
yeah,
like that.
It's a pretty good you know, ability to parse those sort of things, from a variety of sources.
So it isn't quite as effortless as, you know, maybe collaborative tools, but it's not far. And one of the advantages of doing it this way, though, is that you can give permissions to that box node and say only one person can edit it, or you could have several different people editing it. It will maintain a version history of that. So if, you know, something is, you know, somebody messed up there, you can simply go back to a previous version.
Yeah, and then the other thing that I would emphasize again is that there is some interesting tricks you can play when you combine Box with Site Builder. And one of those is that, of course, you can embed through the widgets that Box offers, you can embed Box functionality into a Site Builder page. And if it's on a Site Builder page, then there are certain things you can do around limiting access, or even password protecting. I mean, there's some really simple things that you can do here. In fact, Steve, you can show them.
Oh, sure. So yeah, this is something I had just set up. This is just a simple like test site builder site that we had set up. And I don't know how familiar all of you are with Site Builder, which is our, you know, content management system that we have. That most of the websites and the UC or the UCA and our homepage are all done in Site Builder. But one of the things is you can assign, and I can, if you want, I can actually go into a little bit more depth on this. But in Site Builder, you can actually assign permissions to pages. You can make various subpages of a website restricted to even collaborative tools groups, individual people. So you can actually restrict who gets to see some of these files. And so this is what I did, set up a quick test on this. And again, I think I'll make another blog post that goes through exactly how to do this. But here's a way, just embedding these, what they call widgets on a Site Builder site. I have one that allows you to upload things. So I don't know, this is a public computer. Who knows? Let's see if it's find something here. Well, I don't want to just go through and just randomly upload things, but it's actually pretty easy to just, you know, drag and drop things here. So you can actually make this available to subgroups of people to upload things, or you could actually make it available to the world. If you want to just say, hey, submit your pictures of, you know, the Master Gardeners event, whether or not you're, you know, a Master Gardener, whether or not you have a portal account, you can actually set up something like this and people can just upload pictures or whatever. You can actually restrict it to, you can force them to give an email address and things like that. And then you can actually share folders and have, again, what they call a widget that embeds in your page. It says, oh, here's a bunch of folders, and that people can download. And again, this can be restricted in this case because it's in Site Builder, and you can restrict Site Builder pages to collaborative tools groups. We could restrict this very easily to any collaborative tools group that existed.
And we've also added something to Site Builder, which is sort of a really sort of quick and dirty way to password protect a page. If you're in Site Builder and you're looking at the properties for a particular page, it gives you the opportunity to just very quickly click one button, and it will password protect the page and give you a password that you can then share. It's not, the world's most robust functionality, but it does offer that option for a quick and easy thing. So you could, as I said, really easily, kind of have either files that you want to share or a place where you want to ask people to share to you, and you can just, as I said, easily password protect it or limit it to a particular group of volunteers or A&R employees, what have you.
So yeah, here, just to go over that, let's see, for site info, let's see.
You would just go to
user
page.
access.
Well, yeah, you can do that as well.
Oh, actually, okay, here. Maybe this might be something because you're dealing more with Site Builder, so if I can't figure out my own tool, then maybe you will. But if we go to, let's see, edit site pages, so here's the.
Yeah, and any page, if you look at its properties.
So, okay, let's go to the, where's the box test out we are. Properties. So here's, let's see, where's, oh. So that's an even more, that's a new feature that I forgot existed. So yeah, you can actually assign a particular page a password.
Yep. And then share that out if you want. It's a pretty quick and dirty little functionality, but it is there.
But we can also, again, add user groups. And here I'm just going to say test user group, and we'll do for box test and that. So now if I want to tie this page to only Alameda County. So now
there's a screen issue. Sorry, we're getting reports of a technical issue.
Oh.
We can maybe go up to the video.
Okay, it's shared.
Maybe it's switched focus or something. We'll click on that.
You share?
Yeah. Yeah, I think. No.
Is it this screen?
Yeah, it should.
Oh, I think you were sharing. It was shared as a browser. Okay, it was the screen wasn't shared. It was a browser window that was shared. So I think now you should be able to. Okay, so I can go back a little bit. So I think this is the embedded, what they call, again, the widgets in the Site Builder page that I was showing. So it can actually set up a place where people can upload files. Again, this can be restricted, and you can actually have a place where people can, look at files and download them. And I know we did have a question about, the UC Davis branding there. Doing these embedded, again, widgets minimizes that. And again, for the upload thing, there is no UC Davis branding, but there will always be this little title bar for the immediate future. But again, that's going to be wrapped in a obviously superior A&R site. But yeah, this is there'll always be this UC Davis small title bar there. But again, let's see, going back to that. So this was I just restricted that box page to Alameda County. So bam, now if you're not in Alameda County, you won't be able to see this page. And again, you can do that. You can create custom lists again here, just like in any Site Builder page. or have it, restricted to all UCNR personnel. And some of these, I think these are all collaborative tools groups, I believe.
What are units?
So yeah, I think by default,
Yes.
so yeah. So pretty much anything you can do within collaborative tools as far as restricting things, you can do that through Site Builder or through Site Builder plus Box. Any other questions?
Oh, let's scroll down.
Okay.
As with any of these tools, the more you play around with them, the more you'll learn and be comfortable with them. I would recommend, doing it if you're thinking about using it for a particular need. I would recommend testing it out. The train just went by. Sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, as I said, I would try to test it out a little bit, play around with it, see if it works for you. We have a question about, you see how easy it is to set up a generic Box account. We certainly can. I did that this morning myself, with just a random account. It's pretty straightforward in my experience. You really just can go to Box and put in your name and email address. Pretty much ready to go. The thing that I think probably would be more relevant is that when someone who has a Box account already has created a folder or a file that they want to share with someone else, and they drop that email address into Box, that user then gets sent an email with pretty clear, pretty straightforward instructions on how to do it. It's really, it's not one click, but it's pretty close. And if they don't already have an account, and they, said it, at least in my experience, it seems pretty straightforward.
So I just accidentally demonstrated the restricted page since I'm not in Alameda County and I just logged out of the portal. Well, I can't access that Box share that I had set up anymore. So let me log back in. So yeah, I think, I guess to expand on that, I'm not sure it'll be easy to actually go through the entire process of having a user sign up for Box.
The only thing that I did encounter signing up for Box is they are a little tricky. If you just go to their site, they, at least when I did it, they kind of wanted you to sign up for their business plan, which does cost money. Oh yeah, as you can see, they kind of trick you a little bit in that the default is a business plan, which costs money. It's not actually the individual plan, which you see over on the left. If you scroll back up,
Okay.
That's the free account. So that they play those kind of games a little bit, which I'm sure we're all too familiar with in the world of terrible online design. That said, again, if people are invited to be a collaborator, they won't see this. They'll get something in the mail and an email, and it'll have a link. That link, in my experience, takes you to it. It's a much more straightforward and streamlined procedure where they don't play these sort of shenanigans.
So yeah, I think, pretty much if you invite someone who doesn't have a Box account, like Bruce said, they'll get an email, and I could probably do maybe a screenshot of what that is for a blog. Good grief.
Yeah, you get the sales check on.
And we could add like a screenshot of exactly what one of those emails will look like. But yeah, users will get an invitation to sign up for a Box account. Again, if they do have an individual Box account already, or in a Box account from some other company, that's not an issue. You can share to anyone, anywhere who has a Box account. But yeah, I think we will clarify and actually include like a little example in the next blog post of an invitation.
But like I said, it's quite straightforward. Something that we all do so often these days, having to sign up for an online service of some kind or another. But we can definitely provide more of this that would be useful for your particular users.
And again, just to make sure, the Freebox account has a limit of 15 gigabytes. However, that does not include anything that is shared to them. So if Lauren, shares a folder of, 300 terabytes of videos going back 200 years of Master Gardener stuff and shares it to somebody with a free account, that works.
Yeah, it doesn't go to the account limitations. Survey functions.
No.
Yeah, no. I think again, that would be the kind of thing that you would have to kind of jury rig something probably. I would recommend. I would recommend continuing using our surveys. Hopefully they work for your purposes. I would continue doing that. But you can obviously then have a link within a survey to a Box account, to a file that's either hosted in Box or to upload something to Box. And in fact, I would probably recommend that actually if our survey tools do have a file upload function, but it's not nearly as robust as what Box can do, and it's probably frankly just not as secure. I would recommend using Box in that case if at all possible. But you just have to copy over the link in order to do that. Differences between sharing files via Box and Outlook.
I've played a little bit with like the Outlook, OneDrive. Again, it's kind of like the differences between this and Google Drive. I think Box is a little bit more flexible in terms of sharing with arbitrary people. In some ways, it's a little bit of an arbitrary thing. It's just we have to like pick some tool, and Box actually was pretty good and a little bit more flexible than just using OneDrive to be sharing amongst external users. But yeah, I think we could, put up a little, comparison, because I haven't played a lot with OneDrive or Google Drive. We could just put up a little comparison somewhere of, if you're used to this service, here's how you do it in Box, or here's why we chose Box. I mean, Box is the one thing that's been widely supported kind of by A&R management and UC Davis.
And any other questions? We're happy to follow up, or if there's anything you want to see in more detail, just let us know. We can also, again, we will be following up with some more information that we'll be publishing. And of course, if you start using Box and have some questions or run into any problems, just let us know. Send us a question at help@ucanr.edu or support system. It's all connected to each other, so either way works. But we're happy to help you with that.
And I don't know if you're interested, because I think Lauren, you asked, if memory serves, last time about the Box client, which if you're doing a lot of file manipulation, it's pretty helpful. I have it here. I could do like a quick demo from my laptop of what it looks like to have one for OS 10 as well. So here we are. Let's see, I need to stop sharing. So let's see. Oh, I think I might not be able to.
Yeah, we don't have it installed.
Because I'm not. I was going to share my laptop, but if I'm not the host, I think I might. Give us a minute here. I can request. Oh, I guess I can share. Okay, there we are. So I'm going to share my screen here. So this, I've got Windows 10. And so this is what the Box client looks like. There's another thing, there's an older program called Box Sync, which I think you can technically get, but they're deprecating that, so they recommend the Box client, which does everything that Box Sync did and a lot more.
So just to be clear, so this is just a program that you can install on your home computer that helps integrate with Box. It's not necessary, you don't have to, you can do everything through the web, but this is a tool that they offer if you want to sort of take it to a more higher level.
So yeah, again, like Bruce said, if you're doing a lot of file manipulations, sometimes it's a lot handier to use, you know, a file explorer interface rather than the web interface. And here it is. This is basically all of the Box folders of mine or that have been shared to me. You know, it has a little cloud icon there. And if I go to, let's see, the one that we were looking at, I had a little folder here called FileVault Replacement. This is the one I've been using for some of these demonstrations. And here it is. And if I want to just drag and drop files into this, it uploads them to Box. Also, one handy thing is that if I okay, where's oh, here. If I go to a particular folder, oh, here, let me go back. So what I can do, and this is kind of handy, is that if you're on the road a lot or out in the field a lot and don't have access to reliable or fast internet, using the Box client, I can do this. I can make any folder available offline. By default, all of these are in the cloud. So it will cache the most recently used files on your computer, but it's not going to copy everything that you have access to in Box to your computer, because again, with that 300 terabytes of 200-year-old videos, you know, that's not going to fit on most laptops. But if there's a particular folder that you actually need to use, you're out in the field somewhere, you can just right-click on that folder, say make available offline. It downloads that to your computer, and then the next time you're in internet access, it will automatically upload that. But yeah, I think the rest of it is it's pretty evident. You can just go to the like you can in File Explorer, and again, it's available for Windows and Macintosh. Do you have any other? Maybe the chat. Oh, I might have to stop my sharing here. So we share this screen. So any other?
Well, on that note, we may be ready to move on. But again, you know, both Steve and I are very easy to contact, and you're more than encouraged to send any questions or concerns you have to us or help@ucanr.edu. And then, of course, obviously, if discussions occur with Lauren and with anyone else in Master Gardeners, just let us know. We'll be ready to respond.
So yeah, and again, we can set up specific trainings, and if there's any kind of questions that, or procedures you want to go through, we can actually, we can certainly do another one, or actually put that, instructions in another blog post, or come up with like a more comprehensive how-to environment. So yeah, again, just keep sending us questions, and we'll try and clarify that, put that on the blog post, so there'll be a handy repository of instructions. And again, if on like September 12th, I think is the day that we're scheduled for FileVault to go into read-only mode. And if there's some sort of, oh my God, we need to use FileVault till September 14th, let us know, and that's not written in stone.
We can work with you.
But yeah, I think pretty much most everything that you want to do and more. It'll look a bit different, but Box has a lot of like really neat features. And again, we haven't even scratched, well, I think we've more than scratched the surface in the last couple of webinars, but there's other things like even document workflow that actually is built into Box that we haven't really explored. But if you actually want to do that, there can be like workflows, and we might even want to set up an additional training on that once we get more into that. But there's a lot of features in Box, and more are being added every day.
Absolutely, and one of the things that really appeals to me, and we won't go on too much longer, just that Box has a lot of analytical tools. So if you do have a file that is shared, you'll know in far greater detail than what we offer generally about how often it gets downloaded, who's doing it, the rate, where these people are coming from. There's really some really interesting things in that regard that's just sort of beyond the scope of FileVault that I think could have some real value. Okay, well, we will leave it at this. Please, stay in contact. Thank you for your time, and we're just really, appreciate you taking the effort to join us today and to explore these things with us. And hopefully, we'll be using these tools to great effect.
And we'll answer the questions probably in the blog about the collaborative tools and OneDrive and Google Drive differences, and so yeah, we'll keep adding to the blogs.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
That's it.
Yeah, so you probably want to.
Oh yeah. Let's
do end meeting.
Let's see how we
Should come back.
make it stop. Where's our Zoom?
You need to go back to see it keeps popping up. End meeting. Go down.
Where's okay?
Beneath where it says Alexa Johnson.
Oh, okay, there we go. Okay.
There.
And